So, does anybody have any ghouls to gab?
As a matter of fact, I've got two. One of them actually made me think of Noah at a point while I was watching it. Have any of you heard anything
Oh
about
shit.
the movie Suitable Flesh?
S- Wait, say that
What
name
is-
again?
Why does
Suitable
flesh make you think of me?
Do you
No, no,
mean
no. It's
supple?
not. It's not the title of the movie or anything. No, suitable, as in
Oh,
like this.
suitable.
Yeah, like this is a suitable flesh. So the
Yeah.
whole way through the movie, it's mostly Heather Graham for a lot of it. It's also got Barbara Crampton in it, though. The whole way through the movie, I keep thinking this feels just like one of those old, like 80s, like Brian Usna Lovecraft adaptations, right? It's like Reanimator or The Beyond or something like that. Right down to having Barbara Crampton in it, being set at Miskatonic University for no goddamn reason. Like, the whole way through it, I'm just like, man, this is very, very Brian Usna. Guess what? Turns out he was an executive producer on it, so not surprising at all. It's a fun enough movie, though. The thing in it that made me think of you, Noah, is that there's a scene where a detective is interviewing someone, and there's a particular question that he's just very pointedly withholding up until the final moment where he's about to leave the room, and then suddenly he turns around and goes, oh, and one more thing, the classic. And he says...
No, it does that all the time.
Yeah, right? The line is straight up, I hate to go all Columbo on you like this. And then he hits her with, like, the bomb drop question.
That's so
Oh,
funny.
I love that.
Yeah, the movie is fun enough, though. It's, it's a little dumb, but it's a fun concept and a fun execution of it. I thought it was all right.
I love that.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that it reminded you of Noah because Noah also has supple flesh, but, that's pretty exciting too.
That's the worst word you could have picked. Oh my God.
Hate that. Love Columbo.
Love
Hope to watch an
Columbo.
episode
Hate
someday.
supple flesh.
Can't stand that phrase. Stop saying it, please.
Well, we'll move on then. Noah, do you have any ghouls?
You got any Columbo rules?
No Columbos, unfortunately, but I do have a bit of a head-to-head ghoul, if you will.
Oh.
I can't remember. Did I talk about watching Amityville?
I don't think so.
I think you said something about it in the Discord, didn't you?
Okay, so I watched the
you
1979 Amityville Horror.
Okay, original.
Yeah, the original.
All right.
And I watched that and I'm like, okay, this is slow as shit, but it has all the building blocks of every like haunted house movie you've ever seen made fun of. The Simpsons basically showed me the whole movie and I didn't realize it. The classics, right?
Right, sure.
Yeah, the bleeding walls, the
that's where the bleeding walls
dad
come
goes
from.
crazy,
Okay.
the flies, and the other, like the devil room in the basement. The classic hitters all come from Amityville.
Oh, okay.
And I personally am of the opinion that, to a point, people that say the movie's too slow would be absolutely going ballistic if the A24 logo was in the front of the movie, because it's no slower than an average, like, A24 movie is. And I think it's a lot of it, like, it's crusty, right? It's a crusty older movie.
Ooh. Like
but it's
Texas
not,
Chainsaw
it's
crusty?
not, no, like crusty in the sense of the microphones aren't the greatest and the film grain is there. But I love film grain, so that doesn't
So
bother me.
I would hate it.
Right.
You probably
Yeah,
wouldn't care for it, no.
absolutely.
But it's nice because there's a lot of the building blocks. Oh, house so evil it makes a nun puke and makes a priest go blind.
That's just my house.
That's pretty fun. So all that is here, right? There's also like some really unfortunate like native burial ground stuff going on.
Oh.
And in this one, not so unfortunate because while it is a plot point, it's not like, and it is the reason the land is cursed kind of thing. It's not nearly as bad as the remake. Oh, what's that? You had a second ghoul. Yeah, it's the remake of Amityville
shit.
Horror. I
Back-to-back
watched that one.
Amityvilles?
Amityville's back to back.
Ooh, okay.
This is the one with Ryan Reynolds
I was about to ask
instead
if
of
this
Josh
is the
Brolin.
Ryan Reynolds one. Yeah. Ooh.
Is it Josh Brolin or James Brolin?
It's
Wait a minute.
Josh
I want to make
Brolin's
sure I get this
dad.
right. James Brolin.
Yeah.
Yeah. James Brolin. I loved him in original Amityville. It's slow and it like creeps on you. And because of the way the movie goes, you watch it and you don't think, this guy is clearly possessed and going crazy. Like, you do think that, but it doesn't show you that. You're like, oh my God, this guy's possessed and crazy. Yikes. Unfortunately for Ryan Reynolds, it does explicitly say that
Oh.
in the remake. He's, he is our focal character. We're seeing demons. We're seeing ghosts. Instead of it being a native burial ground type situation, instead there's a reverend who had an asylum where he just outright tortured and murdered natives instead.
Yikes.
And then he killed himself to ensure he would live forever. That's a line from the movie.
That
Um,
what?
Goofy as shit. Reverend Ketchum,
His name's
Ash.
Oh my
Ash's
god.
Ash's father.
Did he catch them all, or
He, Ketchum kill him.
is that
in fact.
that part of ensuring that you live forever? You catch them all first, or like?
No, actually, they said that he slit his throat so that he would live forever.
Fun.
Yeah, I don't know,
I
but
don't think that works, but
in the original story, in the true story that the movies are based off of,
Mhm.
it was a 28-day time period.
Sure.
In the first movie, they bumped it down to 21 days. And then in the remake, they brought it back to 28 days, but they also wildly accelerated how quickly Ryan Reynolds went crazy on him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, if he were acting the way he was acting on day 3, I would not have made it to day 28 to stick around and watch him get worse every single day.
Right.
I'd be gone.
Yeah.
Because he was over the line abusive at that point, obviously real world situations, yada yada. We're in a movie. We're talking about in movies. It ruined the suspense and setup. It moved the priest coming to bless the house, because in the original, they are not George, the father, but the wife is very, very religious.
Oh,
And
sure.
she wants a priest to come and bless the house. There's
Yeah.
even a little plot look in there about the father's coworker being you got married and you changed your religion, blah, 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 blah. But the priest coming to bless the house happens at the beginning of the movie and sets the tone of us realizing then is when the house is bad, but the
Oh.
house doesn't act up a lot after that. It's a slow burn after kicking the priest out of the house. The priest doesn't hit the house in the remake until the end of the movie.
Oh,
And it's really
that changes
not great.
the whole thing.
It's just, it changes the entire thing. And I saw this Polygon article talking about how the Amityville Horror remake does everything better than the original, pretty much.
that is the
And
opposite of everything
that was written
I've
in,
ever heard.
I know, right? It was written in 2019, and I don't know if this is some contrarian guy who's actually,
It's gotta be.
I thought the remake was pretty nice.
'Cause-
But regardless of what this guy's got going on, it's not a good remake.
Yeah.
And I'm noted remake fan.
Sure.
I think remakes
remakes.
conceptually for some of these are pretty great.
It's been
Yeah.
done well.
Requels, reboots. I even liked the Texas Chainsaw one okay. It wasn't good, but it was okay.
Which one? The recent one?
The
The Netflix one?
the requel, not the remake.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I don't
The
know.
remake
it's,
is just kind of gross.
It's a fun enough watch. I just was mad at it the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Valid.
But yeah, I don't know. I did not care for it. But I am holding up with my my January commitment of 1 movie a day average.
Hey.
I managed to hold that through February so far.
Nice.
Oh, hey, let's
wow.
go.
We're some
So,
distance into February too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know. I think I had 1 extra movie in January that's helping me out.
Right.
But now I believe I'm currently, as of recording, it's 1 or 2 movies ahead.
All right.
We'll see when it goes.
Nice.
I like to try and keep it a few movies ahead so that when I have a weekend where I have to be out,
Right.
Yeah.
You just haven't got the
it doesn't
time.
break the streak.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But yeah, that's my ghouls. I've
Nice.
watched a lot of I watched Videodrome, no review, but it's very, very good, and I recommend it.
Nice.
If you like supple flesh.
Please. God. I do
great.
actually have another ghoul, but I was going to wait to talk about it until we got a little further in, because I am going to fold it right into discussion about the director of today's movie. So, Emma, have
Okay,
you got
yeah.
anything?
Well, so I do have something.
All right.
In my journey of introducing a VTuber and their community to horror movies and getting them into horror, I have some updates.
Hell yeah.
It's going great.
Yeah.
I think, did I talk about showing them the first 2 Conjuring movies on the last episode?
I think so.
Okay, great. So we did that, And during that experience, the VTuber was like, okay, those were fun. I had a great time. I'm really enjoying this. I want to be scared next time. So please show me like an actual scary movie that's going to scare me.
Oh, let's
And
go.
I was like, great. So on Friday, I showed them Host. And it was wonderful.
okay.
It was a wonderful time. For one, Host is just a great movie. I love it a lot. But like seeing their reactions, because we mute mics and stuff as we're watching the movies, we'll just like type in a chat our reactions and things. And seeing everybody kind of like freak out in chat was so much fun. It was a great time, and I love it. And next up, I might show them Ganjam Haunted Asylum just to keep
hell
the scary train rolling.
Yeah.
But
Especially if they like the found footage thing.
yeah, they've really enjoyed found footage. We had a whole conversation about it where I was like, I think I really enjoy found footage because when it's done well, like the people and the events just feel real.
And Ganjam does that for sure.
Ganjam does that. Host does that really well as well.
Host, Jeff, did you see Host
I
yet?
still haven't yet, actually.
Oh my gosh,
it's
Jeff.
48 minutes.
That's right. It is that short, and I'm always thinking that's easy. I
The
can
length
just
of a
go
free
do
Zoom
that
call.
easy, but like I keep not doing it.
Yeah, you gotta check it out.
I got to.
You got to.
If you want to scare the shit out of yourself, do the headphones in the dark treatment.
Yeah.
Because it is a
sure.
Zoom,
Yeah, I'll just
a
scan
Zoom
rank it
meeting
full
movie.
But so not a traditional ghoul, but just like an update.
That's a perfectly good
Yeah.
rule, I say.
Well, thank you, Jeff. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies. Today we are talking about When Evil Lurks, a movie released last year in 2023 by Demian Rugna, who is a relatively newish director, all things considered. He's only had one other film that he's directed. But this was a fun one, and it made a big splash last year in the horror landscape, and you may recall me and Jeff talking about it in our various ghoul segments and just gushing about the movie, and now we have a whole episode about it. And today we have me, of course, Emma, but with me is Jeff.
Hello.
And Noah.
Me, of course, Noah.
And unfortunately, Nina couldn't join us today, but we do have a special segment of Nina's notes later on in the episode where we get to hear kind of a little bit about what they thought as they were watching the movie.
I am actually real bummed to not have Nina as part of the main discussion.
I know.
This time.
I am too. I was like, crap. Can I make this work somehow?
Right,
I was trying to shuffle
something?
things around. Yeah. So unfortunately, we're recording this on the weekend of the Superb Owl.
All hail.
And various people in the call are going to Superb Owl watch parties to watch the owl.
Being superb.
Yeah, and normally we record Sunday nights generally, but because of the owl, we couldn't do Sunday night. And then Saturday night, I was babysitting my little cousin, and Monday night I have a D&D game, and then people are busy all the other times. So unfortunately, Nina's working.
The owl
the only time we can really record. Yeah, but it's fine. It's okay.
It's all right.
We have Nina's notes.
Yeah.
So When Evil Lurks is a movie about these two brothers finding a cut-up corpse in the woods, and then they go and are investigating things further and find out that there is a possessed person called a Rotten in this world in their town. And then they're trying to figure out what to do about that, and shit goes off the rails.
So,
That's it.
just as a real quick thing, the first fun fact that I can give you from directly from the director's mouth, actually, is Rotten is not a good translation of what he intended there, actually.
Ooh, really?
Oh.
Yeah, they use two words to describe the possessed in this movie. One is encarnato, which just means incarnate, exactly how it sounds. And that's the one that in the subtitles gets translated as possessed. But the one that gets translated as rotten is actually a completely different word. The word is empichado. which the director Damien described as being referring to having something inside. He kept saying like bagged as like his description. I look up the literal definition of the word. The literal translation of it is actually stuffed, which is so much more disgusting.
Yeah.
God, if you've seen the movie, he sure is.
He sure is stuffed.
Right? Oh my God.
But
yeah, so
I feel like that'd be a...
It's tough to put that into sentences when you translate it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, people would probably make a lot of sex jokes.
Likely.
Yeah. So
Not
I
me,
can...
because I respect the stuffed and how gross he is.
Disgusting, actually. Very impressive from a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah.
Anyways, though.
But oh gosh. It's a fun time. And, you know, I'm real curious to hear what the critics thought of it. So, Noah, could you tell us a little bit about the critical reception of this movie?
Oh, no, wait a minute.
It's been good
2
so
seconds.
far, hasn't it?
Let me do a live
Oh my
Twitter
gosh,
search.
she wasn't prepared.
No, I'm prepared, but I forgot to see what Twitter Brandon has to say.
Right.
Oh,
Let's go
okay.
check.
That is important.
It's in like the high 90s on Rotten Tomatoes or some shit, right?
Maybe.
Wouldn't you
I'm
like
sure
to
we're
know?
about to find out.
Yeah.
I imagine Twitter Brandon probably didn't say anything
You think?
because I think this came out during the strikes or like right around the strikes.
Oh, did it?
But he's not in
it's not
what do you call
affiliated.
it?
Yeah, it's an indie movie, so it's not affiliated with any of the stuff that was getting struck. But
Yeah.
I think, so it looks like as of mid-December, he had not watched it yet.
Oh,
Okay.
So
how about that?
How about that?
he does really want to watch it, though, because he says he's really mad he missed the When Evil Lurks window at his theater.
Yeah.
Ooh, can you imagine catching this in a theater? Holy shit.
Right?
That'd be fun.
Like,
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
But what does the rest of the internet say, Noah?
So IMDb, we're at a 7 out of 10, which is a little lower than last time. Do you guys care if it's like up or down from last time? Because I think it's kind of fun to include these statistics, but
I think
if
it's
no one
a
cares,
fun enough thing to include, yeah.
Okay.
I don't care.
Oh.
No, it's fine. I'm cool with it.
Rotten Tomatoes, 97%, which is up
There
from
it is.
last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Metacritic, 75, also up. Letterboxd, 3.6 out of 5, which is down, but I'm not too surprised because the Flanagan heads are definitely going to be boosting Letterboxd numbers.
Oh, sure.
You know, the flans, if you will.
The
Yeah.
flans.
And we got no Twitter Brandon, as just established,
Naturally.
but we do have an Ebert.
Yeah.
2.5 out of 4 from our boy Brian Tellerico, which is a little
Oh.
bit lower than House Usher.
That's lower than I
Okay.
expected.
Yeah, right? But it's still above 50%. Also, because I was just reminded of this recently, to pull it back to Rotten Tomatoes, just as a reminder for everyone else, since I'm sure you all remember, but since I had always forgotten, the way Rotten Tomatoes scoring works is this does not mean most of the critics gave the movie 97%.
Right.
It means that 97% of the critics gave it a 6 or higher.
A positive
So 90
review.
Net
some might
positive.
Exactly.
say.
There are 97% positive reviews on the movie, which, in fairness, if every single critic is still giving it like a 6 out of 10
Yeah.
and it gets 100% Rotten Tomatoes,
It's good.
that's still going to be a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that the Rotten Tomatoes percentage does not work in the same way that Metacritic, Letterboxd, and IMDb do.
Right.
Yeah.
Metacritic being the aggregate percentage.
Yeah. True,
Anyway,
true, true.
2.5 out of 4 from Ebert.com's, I don't think that's actually it, Brian Tellerico.
It is RogerEbert.com, isn't it?
I just said Ebert.com.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The intent comes
And
across.
I actually chopped this one up this time. As always, all quoted articles are, as recently established, all quoted articles are in the description of the episode.
And this is Tallarico's words here that we're coming up on?
This is Tallarico's
Okay.
words, yeah. Lightly chopped up just to make it quicker.
Right.
The most memorable aspect of Damien Rugna's When Evil Lurks have an archaic oh my god, it's just anarchic. Threw me off. Have an anarchic brutality that's reminiscent of the work of an obvious influence in the Argentinian filmmaker Lucio Fulci. The film doesn't abide by many norms. Dogs and children are not free or innocent, for the record, and gets great power from occasionally dropping into gory, gnarly insanity. It's an admirably vicious piece of work when it wants to be, although arguably it could have gone even further and more frequently. After all, once you open the door to hell, viewers are willing to go wherever you lead them. There's a version of When Evil Lurks that leads into the potential chaos of the concept instead of trying to get a firm narrative grip on it, or even get sentimental with its leading men and their families. Fulci never needed to be so blunt regarding exposition or narrative consistency. Audiences will forgive not understanding what's happening if they are too shocked and or terrified to care. In the end, there's enough unforgettable imagery in When Evil Lurks to overcome its unfulfilled potential. The right audience will eat it up, ignoring both the undercooked and overcooked ingredients in this bloody stew, if they're not too nauseous to do so.
Ooh. So
That sounds
Tallarico's a
fun.
Fulci fan, huh? My experience
I
with
guess
Fulci
so.
movies is very different from the way that he describes them. It's not that Fulci doesn't need to get into details, it's that he doesn't tell you jack shit about what's going on in his movies.
He doesn't need to get into that because you already know it's fucked up.
Wait, what?
Lucio
what did
Fulci's like, let me
Fulci
give you
make?
this movie. Zombie. It's about a zombie. and
Yeah,
it's
so
called
Lucio
Zombie.
Fulci directed Zombie. He directed The New York Ripper. He did the Gates of Hell trilogy, which includes The House by the Cemetery and two other movies whose names always escape my memory.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay.
Yeah,
You listed more movies than I would have expected already, so you're doing well.
Me personally, as Giallo directors go, I'm not super into Fulci. I think Zombie is a solid one, but overall, I have a hard time with his movies because lots of times they feel to me as though they're delving into just trying to shock you by looking gross more so than most other things.
Okay, that
That
makes
said,
sense.
he's put together some really, really solid kills, multiple of which are in Zombie. So if you're going to watch any of his movies, it would be that one. If I were to push the podcast to cover any of his movies, it would be that one, and I probably wouldn't push for any others because frankly, I just don't enjoy his movies the way I enjoy like an Argento
Yeah,
or even
that
a
makes
Bava.
sense.
But we're not talking about Lucio Fulci. We're talking about Damien Rugna here.
That's
Well,
true.
actually, Brian Tellerico was talking about Lucio
Well,
Fulci.
yeah, Brian Tallarico
so,
was talking about Lucio Fulci, and we're talking about Brian Tallarico, but
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, me and Jeff have talked about our opinions of this movie a good bit.
yes, you've already gotten
in our ghouls. So I figure me and Jeff can go first on giving the movie an official rating.
Yeah.
And then Noah can close us out as the only one that we don't know how Noah feels about this movie. So Jeff, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm giving it a 9.5.
Ooh, yeah.
It is
Solid,
very, very
solid.
close to perfect for what it is, I think.
Yeah. I think when I first watched it, it was a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
I was right in the high, and I really love this movie.
Absolutely.
And thinking about it more and watching it the second time, I still really love this movie.
It holds
but
up real
I
good
did
for a
notice
rewatch.
I noticed its sins a little bit more, I think,
Yeah.
this time around. So I'm gonna give it a 9.
Okay.
But I still desperately love this movie, and I'll talk about kind of the movie sins that I more noticed and struggled with this time around.
Sure.
But Noah, what did you think?
well, hate to say it,
Okay.
I gave it a 9.
Damn.
I'm kidding. No, I had a blast with this. This is really, really good.
Alright.
I forgot to get a number rating from Nina, so I can't pass that one along. But I loved this movie.
It's solid, right?
There is a specific kill in this bad boy that cemented the movie for me. You know, like our beginning, you could make a disingenuous argument perhaps that the beginning is too slow.
Sure.
Because I think it's a nice like tension set because we really do
Mhm.
the opening like scenes are moving up and then we kick it off at the farm.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a moment, it spends a lot of time ramping up, and then there's a moment where it just kind of comes right off a cliff, and it's in a free fall for the whole rest of its run, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it a lot because we get a lot of up and then it drops us
Mhm.
and then it's like a good fucking roller coaster. You can't always go.
Yeah.
There need to be moments of still so that I appreciate when we're really going.
Mhm.
And there's just enough of those in this movie that it keeps the pace constantly like elevating tension while also giving us those moments of release that let me like come back down a little bit and get back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's Ooh, I cannot wait to talk about my favorite kill in this movie, but I don't want to because there's no way to reference it
I have a
without
couple of
saying what it
guesses
is.
as to which it might
I
be.
have a major guess.
Yeah, if it's not that one, I'm like, all right, what's plan B here? But like, I've got one that I'm fairly certain it is.
It's the big one. It's the big one.
It's the big one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think with this movie in particular,
Yeah.
there are a number of content warnings.
Oh my
that
god, there is so
we should
much.
talk about.
And we've talked about it
So-
already in our previous discussions of it, and even in briefer formats, right? The violence against the children is so much; it cannot be overstated.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Which actually, funny thing about the violence to children.
Uh-huh.
So it was really difficult for him to get all the violence and children filmed because
right.
the parents super on board. They loved it. They're like 100% fine with this.
Argentina's
The
got a bunch of,
Argentinian
like-
government said no blood on children.
Yeah, they've got a lot of
Yeah.
censorship laws and stuff like
Very
that.
interesting reading that and then realizing that there were no kids with blood on them because I'm like, that can't have happened.
But when
he must
there-
have lied.
when there
he
is,
must have
though-
made it happen.
Because there are a couple
There's
of moments
only-
where there is. And do you know how they
Yeah.
did it? How they got around it? I think
Is it real blood? Because
it
no
doesn't
fake
look
blood
like
allowed
blood.
on children?
no, it's
Oh.
the fake blood that they used was blue, and then they changed it to red in post.
Oh,
Fantastic.
I think it's
that
the
makes sense.
traditional like dyed corn syrup blood kind of move, and they just turned it blue
Mhm.
instead of red and digitally edited it to be red.
That's fun.
Love
Yeah.
that.
If you look closely, you can kind of tell at a couple of points toward the end.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The big blood scene.
So, violence against children.
Massively, and not just sights, but like sounds. You're gonna hear things. The Foley work in this movie is incredible, and that makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Violence to animals. A
Dog.
big thing in this movie is like
Yeah.
animals get like possessed too, and like don't trust animals, and there are multiple animals in this movie that do things.
Yeah.
A
dog dies.
A dog does die.
The dog
Yeah.
kills first.
True. Gosh, there's some gross body horror stuff.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of men not listening to women and kind of disregarding women.
As like a plot point. It's not as though the movie doesn't realize this is what it's doing. It's like the point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What other
Cannibalism?
things are there? Cannibalism.
Reference
True.
to it, yeah, certainly. Well, and also, yeah, the site of
Not
it,
even
actually.
reference.
Yeah, I forgot.
I was gonna say, there's-
So much
we
happens
see
in
it.
this movie that anytime I try to focus in on a particular thing, I end up forgetting a ton of other shit that happens in it. Like you were giving
Yeah.
the non-spoiler synopsis at the beginning. You mentioned how it starts with them finding a cut-up body, and I was like, oh right, that is what kicks this whole thing off, isn't it? 'Cause
oh yeah, the inciting event.
so much else happens over the course of
Yeah.
the rest of the movie. I forgot that was what started it.
Yeah. Parental abuse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the violence
Any
against
other-
children is not limited only to possessed people. The main character also just has no qualms about beating the shit out of a kid at a couple of points.
Yeah. Any
Jeff,
other
the kid's
content
possessed.
warnings you can think about?
It's really just the violence for the most part.
There's
Disease imagery, I don't know.
there's an autistic kid in here
Yeah.
that you might find upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like there's a theory about demonic possession and autistic kids where they're just like, yeah, demons possess autistic people, but they don't know how to navigate the autistic mind. Which is, I think it's one of those things where
It could
it's interesting,
be very bad and ableist
but it's
if it
also
were
one of
done
those
worse.
things where exactly, it's one of those things where I would be very worried about praising it literally primarily because it is riding a line.
Yeah.
But it is also, I think in this movie it's done compellingly and interestingly. I think it's kind of neat.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
not done in it's not discussed in such detail that it ends up having the opportunity to become more ableist or anything. So I think it's okay,
Mhm.
but
There is a moment where someone says that child is possessed by demons, and they're like, "Hey, yo, fucking idiot!
he's just autistic.
He's just
actually.
autistic.
Yeah,
Would you calm the fuck
there is
down?"
that.
Archaic mindset, and she's
Yeah.
like, "No.
I'm an expert.
No, actually,
he is
though.
actually.
But actually, though."
Yeah. Good stuff.
I think that
Okay.
I think that covers everything.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Multiple references to suicide
Yeah.
because it's a thing in the one
Mhm.
character's backstory.
Yeah.
hmm
True.
And creepy kids.
Creepy
Creepy kids. Lots of creepy kids.
Lots of
Plenty
creepy
of
kids.
creepy
Some of the
kids.
better done
True.
creepy kids I've seen as well. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we will.
But,
Is there
I mean-
some sort of other segment we need
Well,
to
I
do?
mean, like, is this movie like I don't know? Is it like scary though?
What a great question. Thank you for asking.
It's a shame Nina's not here to give the scary rating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as Nina.
Emma, would
usually
you mind
does.
like weighing in on this for Nina? Because
I'll-
as we all know, I don't pay attention to Nina. So when
Naturally.
Nina told me, in one ear, out the other. You know how it
Of
is.
course.
Yeah, you know,
Women.
that spouse. So yeah, this movie, there are definitely moments of scary.
Mhm.
And when it does its moments of scary, you're like, holy fuck. Most of the movie there's not an ever-present kind of sense of tension or scariness like there might be for some other horror movies where you're just tense the whole time. And then like it builds up to the scary moment and it freaks you out. It's just like story and then scary moment happens and you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
But there is just an uncomfy feeling throughout the movie, I would
Yeah.
say.
I feel like a lot of the tension of the
And-
movie comes almost from the like comedy of errors aspect of it, where at a certain point
Oh,
you're just
yeah.
like, all right, how's Pedro gonna fuck it up now? It's like The Wailing almost in that way, right?
Yeah.
As soon as there's an
Ooh, I do
opportunity
have-
for him to fuck it up, you're like, oh, I know he's gonna do it.
Yeah. I did have a reference to The Wailing I was going to make. So that's funny that you also brought it up.
I think there's good
But-
comparisons to be made between the two.
Yeah.
That's probably because he liked The Wailing a lot, and it was one of his prime like inspirations.
That's-
Oh, really?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Evil
I had no
Dead,
idea,
The
but that
Wailing.
totally makes sense.
Yeah, I see both of those.
Evil Dead, The Wailing, and like two other things.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find it in my
please
in
do.
notes because I didn't copy those ones down.
Yeah, he didn't talk
Yeah.
about that in the interviews
So-
that I watched with him, but I did get other stuff.
But for a scary rating,
yeah,
I think when the scaries happen, it's like 10 out of 10 at times.
yeah.
Um,
When it's happening, it's
but-
really happening.
yeah. But as for the movie as a whole, I would go maybe at like an 8 or a 9.
Yeah, I could back that.
Mhm.
I could back that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one for the real freaks out there.
Mhm.
This is not a good starter movie
No.
for
This
is-
almost anyone.
Yeah, this is one to ramp up to. Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, we watch a lot of starter movies on this show.
we do.
Yeah.
Not in a rude to the movies way, but in a if we're being realistic way. A lot of our movies are accessible
Yeah.
to a large audience, so we kind of cover them because that's what people will watch.
We do
you
it
know?
on purpose pretty frequently.
This is not one that I would show almost any of my friends.
This isn't your grandma's
Yeah.
horror movie.
No.
I
That's Chucky.
I was playing Valorant last night with the VTuber and a couple other people,
Mm.
and I mentioned, I was like, I can only play for a little bit because I still got to watch this movie tonight.
Right.
And they're like, oh, what movie? And it's like, I was like, oh, it's for the horror movie podcast. It's this. And they were like,
where we
oh,
talk
that
about
sounds
horror
really
movies.
cool. Yeah. And once we finished Valorant, I just felt the need to be like, VTuber friend, if you want to watch it with me, you can.
But you
And she was
shouldn't.
like, she's like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, okay, great. Because I
Smart.
didn't want to invite you because
Yeah.
this movie's pretty intense. But I felt weird that I brought up the fact that I was watching a movie and I know you're going to be up for a while. And I felt like
Yeah.
I had to like invite you.
Right.
But if you had said yes, I would have suitably warned you about some things in this movie.
Be wrong not to.
Yeah. Yeah. But gosh.
But,
okay.
But what is the rest of this movie, Emma? What all goes on in it?
Yeah, so now we're going to hit up that spoiler kind of summary. So if you haven't seen this movie before and you're potentially interested in it, go watch it, come back, listen to the rest of this episode. I am going to read from Wikipedia
Yeah,
with some supplemental information from elsewhere.
of course.
Obviously, Wikipedia summaries aren't the best, but they get the job done.
They are pretty good sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah. Okay. So, the morning after hearing gunshots in nearby woods, Brothers Pedro and Jaime discover half the body of a man, which leads them to a nearby shack where Maria Elena, an elderly woman, and her 2 sons are in hiding. The eldest, Uriel, has become a rotten, a being possessed by an unborn demon who is awaiting physical birth. The corpse was that of a cleaner, a person called by Maria Elena to kill Uriel and abort the demon before it possesses others. The authorities dismiss the demon as not their problem. The brothers approach the landowner Ruiz, who attempts to deal with Uriel by dumping the possessed man outside his land. After narrowly avoiding a young boy in the road, the 3 men discover Uriel has escaped the truck. Ruiz declares the matter resolved and returns home. The next morning, Ruiz's pregnant wife, Jimena, discovers one of their goats has become possessed. Against her warning not to use guns because they help to spread the possession of the rotten, Ruiz executes the animal, just to be quickly murdered by his wife, who then commits suicide by hitting her head with the axe multiple times. Great stuff.
You watch the whole thing happen.
Fantastic.
Have you ever seen a person swing an axe at her own face before? Because now you have.
Yeah, it's great.
It hits.
Once again, cannot stress enough, this movie does not cut away from the action, whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
So, you know.
The next morning, Jaime and Pedro agree to leave the town, take their family members, and escape to safety. Jaime gets their mother, while Pedro goes to the home of his ex-wife, Sabrina. This leads to an argument between him, Sabrina, and her new husband, Leonardo. When Pedro tries to collect his 2 children, Jair and Santino, while they are distracted by the argument, the family dog, who previously licked Pedro's demon-mucked clothes, savagely attacks Vicky, Leonardo and Sabrina's daughter, and drags her outside. Leonardo and Pedro chase the dog, and the former shoots him. Pedro returns to Sabrina, but sees her daughter is back unharmed and threatening Sabrina. So Pedro steals their car. As Pedro drives away with his sons, he witnesses Leonardo crash his car into Sabrina as Vicky dances. What a scene.
What a set of scenes.
After Pedro,
Oh my God.
yeah. After Pedro picks up Jaime and their mother, the assembled family leaves town and arrives at the house of Mirta, a former cleaner and a friend of Jaime, who invites them to stay overnight. Mirta warns Jaime about Jair, who is autistic, as exhibiting signs of possession, which Jaime dismisses. The possessed corpse of Sabrina kidnaps Santino, and Mirta advises that Jaime chase after her while she and Pedro search for Uriel to end the demonic plague. While seeking out Sabrina, Jaime discovers that she has killed Santino and runs over her in a fit of emotion. In doing this, he collides with a tree. The brothers' mother stays at Mirta's house and waits with Jair, who returns to the house, now speaking clearly and without impediment. Pedro and Mirta's search leads them to a schoolhouse filled with possessed children who boldly lie to the pair in order to enable the demonic birth. The pair find Uriel under the stage in the small auditorium, and Pedro tries to properly unearth him as Mirta sets up the demon-killing equipment. Losing his patience and believing one of the children's lies about a fire axe nearby that might help, Pedro runs to the office while Mirta screams to not leave her. While he is away, the children trap Pedro, kill Mirta, and dismantle the equipment. Enraged, Pedro beats Uriel to death with a piece of the broken equipment, but is too late to intercept the birth. The demon inside Uriel is born soon after, shedding his corpse and presenting itself to a defeated Pedro. After taunting Pedro by sparing him, the newly born demon walks out into the morning sun, followed by the children. Pedro, Jaime...
I actually got the impression that Pedro beating Uriel to death with the equipment was part of what caused the demon's birth. Was that not what was intended?
I believe that Wikipedia is missing the point on that.
Yeah,
one.
Yeah. Okay, just making sure that got out there.
Yeah. Pedro, Jaime, and Jair return to home. Jaime finds Uriel's possessed brother, who tells him he killed the original cleaner 4 days ago, devouring him. He also reveals he did the same to his mother the night before and alludes that Jaime's mother had suffered the same fate. Inside, Pedro feeds Jair ice cream, but he begins choking and coughs up Pedro's mother's hair, having been possessed as well and tricking him under the veil of his autism. Pedro walks outside and collapses in grief, having lost everybody but Jaime. And that's the movie.
That is the movie. Holy shit.
So, firstly...
Oh, wait, I have one more thing.
Oh,
One more thing,
yes.
sorry. My supplemental information. So, They say that there are 7 rules to dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank God, because I did not
This
write
is a
those
big
down.
running thing through the movie, yeah.
Yeah, there are 7 rules when dealing with a rotten, or just like
stuffed.
demons in general. Don't use electric
I'm not going to
lights.
call it the stuffed.
Don't stay close to animals because they can also become possessed. Don't take anything that was close to the possessed person. Don't hurt them. Never call the evil by its name. Don't shoot them with firearms. And don't be afraid of dying. And those are the 7 rules. And they break them constantly in this movie.
Constantly.
Yeah. But Noah, what were you going to say?
So at the very end of the movie, I am in love with, after it's revealed that Hair's been like possessed and everything,
Yeah.
right? And he, pukes up all that hair and everything. The eye flit to the side and then
Yes.
going back to the vacant expression.
Yeah.
Absolutely bone chilling.
Mhm.
Fantastic there, because it's just like, woo.
Well, that and
you know?
like when he's initially kind of choking on the ice cream, and then he Pedro tries to help him out by reaching into his mouth to try and dislodge whatever's in his throat, and then the first like cough where he sputters up all the blood. Ugh.
Yeah.
So chilling, 100%.
Absolutely.
Now that we're done, what kill do you think was my favorite kill?
The dog.
It's gotta
obviously,
be the
it's
dog. The
It's-
dog and
is
the
a
little
hun-
girl.
It's the neck whip
Yes.
to
God.
break the kid's neck.
Uh-huh.
Was
Yeah.
holy shit.
Well, and that's
Unexpected.
such a rough moment to see, right? But even that comes after the initial bite and after almost a solid minute of just hearing the noises from under the table.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The noises by themselves, even if you didn't see a ton, the noises by themselves are so off-putting. Holy shit. It's a
Yeah.
disturbing scene.
Yeah, bad noises.
And
Oh man, I love this movie.
By this point, we hadn't heard the 7 rules.
Yeah.
And it seems like the characters themselves don't really know what causes like the possessions to spread or anything. There's a lot of uncertainty. So when the main character, whose name is when Pedro gets to his ex's house, he takes off all of his clothes and is like asking for new clothes. And we see like the dog sniffing the clothes. And you're like, is this actually going to lead to something? Or is he just
Yeah.
sniffing clothes?
And it
Like,
just
what's
keeps
going
giving
on?
you more
Right.
and more shots of the dog just
And
sitting
then,
there.
yeah.
Because
and
they had
then
referenced
it
that they
keeps-
needed to get rid of anything the demon had touched. But then they
Yeah.
didn't change their clothes before they left.
Yeah.
They had clothes and they just didn't choose to change them yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it keeps showing us this dog, and then the little girl goes and is hanging out with the dog and petting the dog, and as an audience member, you're just kind of like,
You're just waiting for it.
are
Like,
they gonna do this?
Are we
they
gonna go
gonna do
there?
this?
And then we do.
And then they do. And something I really love in this movie is it's clear that people see stuff that the audience doesn't see. At the farmhouse where the landowner and his
Luis,
wife
yeah.
see this kind of possessed goat, it's clear that the goat looks different to them.
Yeah.
And there's one scene where we see semi over the landowner's shoulder and we see like these like huge ass horns.
Yeah.
And then we see the rest of the goat like a scene later and it doesn't have the fucked up horns.
Yeah.
But just like that, and then right before the girl gets attacked by the dog, like she's sitting with the dog and she like looks down at its feet, and then suddenly the dog just like lashes and like bites the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And so the idea that like we're not getting the full picture and these characters are seeing things we don't see is so cool to me.
Yeah.
And I really
yeah.
like how they show it throughout the movie and how they allude to it. And it's great.
Yeah.
It's so great.
That and like
Because there was a part of me on the there was a part of me on the goat front because I remember them when they find the murdered cleaner in the woods.
Right.
Them saying, "Oh, this sucks for Ruiz. I mean, first this dead body, or first his one goat died, and now this dead body." There was a part of me that was like, "Oh, maybe that's the goat is back, and that's why they know." But then there's the big horns, and I'm like, Never mind.
And I love the way that it shows the horns. You know, it's just the shot from behind Ruiz, and then it just rises up until the horns are coming up as though they're coming off of his own head, is the way that you see them.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then in the following scene, after Ruiz and Jimena are both dead, we get a scene of Pedro and Jaime in their own home, and they're kind of like just quietly freaked out about things. And Jaime looks up at this pair of like deer antlers that are mounted on the wall, and they're casting a shadow up onto the wall behind them. And as he watches, this effect is so simple, because all you have to do is change the position of the light that's shining at the antlers, right? But he watches their shadow stretch further and further up the wall, and the camera, if you're looking, is doing kind of the same movement that it did when it was behind Ruiz's head, showing you those horns. So it's kind of like the two shots are kind of paralleling one another to be like, you know, the demon's influence is here too. He's just growing more powerful. And I think that's really, really cool. And that particular shot, if you don't mind me getting us a little bit off topic here.
Oh, by all means.
Reminds me of a couple of shots in Damien Rugna's other movie, Terrified.
Okay.
One of the things...
I think you're the only one of us that has seen Terrified,
I believe
right?
I am, and I watched it this week specifically for this, because I was like, you know what? Man with two movies, I can watch both his movies and try and figure out what I can learn of his style, right? Something he is pretty damn good at, I think, is giving you a shot of a thing that doesn't look weird in a vacuum, but that in context becomes really meaningful. Because there's a scene in Terrified where there's literally just like a bubble in a kitchen sink that kind of just inflates up and down with some odd noises, and it's pretty damn normal. But the way he plays it in the movie, it becomes this like weird creepy thing.
Yeah.
It's really neat. Another thing that I really like that he does, and my discussion of Terrified is exclusively going to be things that I think between it and When Evil Lurks that we can learn about Damien Rugna's like approach, right? Because I'm not going to get too into the weeds on Terrified, but in the same way that When Evil Lurks is sort of his fresh take on a possession movie, Terrified is kind of his fresher take on a haunting, I think.
Okay.
And what really interests me about both of these is that he takes the ideas of hauntings and possessions, and in stark contrast to the typical American approach to these ideas, he turns them into community problems instead of individualized problems. Like in, say, Insidious, as an example. We got the family, they're in the house, the family's haunted, and there is pretty much never any mention of them even having neighbors, right? In Terrified, the haunting is a thing that happens to an entire neighborhood. Every way that it affects anybody is a way that it has affected the entire neighborhood. A bad thing happens, a kid dies, because Damien Rugna does not shy away from killing kids in anything, it seems like. Only one kid dies in Terrified, though, so there's that. He gets hit by a bus. And when that happens in all the funeral scenes and such, it's not incredibly super focused just on his parents. It's about the entire neighborhood mourning the loss of this kid who lived there, because that's your neighbor. There's between that and thematic stuff with the haunting and such, there's a lot of basically just a lot of theming about how your neighbor's problems are kind of also your problems. The fact that it happens on the other side of a wall to a guy that you're not necessarily friends with doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you. And you see a lot of that the same way with When Evil Lurks. It's not this really individualistic, my daughter is possessed and now I have to hire the priest who smokes to come and perform an exorcism and all that stuff. It's not any of that stuff. It's this entire town has this horrible problem because there's been this issue that's gone unaddressed for so long. And that, to bring it back into more direct discussion of When Evil Lurks and things that Damien Rugna says about this movie, ties right into the theming. You know what this movie is about, according to him?
What?
It is very easy to look at it and read it as COVID, but it was written pre-COVID. His plan at the time, he was trying to remake Terrified, and then he wanted to make this after that, but then the pandemic happened and he wasn't able to remake Terrified, so he just moved straight to this. What this is about is some pesticide problems that they had. Apparently in Argentina, they had this really big issue with pesticides that were causing like really terrible cancer problems in rural communities. And he wanted to write about that. And basically his manner of doing that was just to change it from cancer to demon possession. And then he mixes this then with a little bit of a second idea, which is the rise of fascism around the world today, and the way the media treats it is just not really helping anything at all.
Yeah.
So if that
I
comes
love
up
that.
in
If I
our
may.
discussion, we're not putting that in there. The director says that's the movie.
Yeah.
So don't complain to us about making this movie political. Anyways,
Now, if I may
Yeah.
hop on the political bandwagon
Sure.
briefly. It's a secret ghoul. I've been watching Dirty Harry.
Speaking of getting off topic.
Dirty Harry is a movie about a cop who is as bad as the guys he's hunting.
Mm-hmm.
He's a crooked cop. He's a dirty cop.
I think they prefer
Dirty
loose
Harry,
cannon. He doesn't play by the rules.
who doesn't play by the rules. So let me hit you with the Polygon interview real quick with Damien.
Yeah.
Real quick. He says, "I have no religion," the director said, "and I hate religion as a business. I love religion as faith or for helping people, but not as a business." He did not set out to make a message movie, just one that would scare audiences.
Oh.
I've noticed for myself in my movies that for a greater horror story, I want to make you suffer, he said. And the social element just comes along with my culture. So him brushing aside a lot of the political and social messaging as this is just part of everyday life.
Right. This is just the world that we live in.
Oh, you think that there's a greater political message to me talking about kids with cancer and shit? That's just everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to
Yeah.
bring us to
Okay.
a New York Times article, an interview with Don Siegel, who directed Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
Dirty Harry, starring Clint Eastwood as a policeman determined to catch a psychopathic sniper, outraged many liberals who felt the hero was an extremist who took the law into his own hands. Demonstrators at the Academy Awards waved placards reading "Dirty Harry is a rotten pig," but the director did not consider it a reactionary film. "I enjoy the controversy," he said, "because if you make a film that's safe, you're in trouble. I'm a liberal. I lean to the left. Clint is a conservative. He leans to the right. At no point in making the film did we ever talk politics. I don't make political movies. I was telling the story of a hard-nosed cop and a dangerous killer. What my liberal friends did not grasp was the cop is just as evil in his way as the sniper." I find it very interesting because I read this article completely unrelated to this. I read it because I was looking into Don Siegel's political views,
Right.
because I'm like, well, is Dirty Harry actually a commentary that I've been reading it as, or is it just a fascist power trip movie?
Right,
In
of
which
course.
case that's unfortunate, And then it's like, no, it is a commentary, but he's just like, it's not commentary. Cops are like this.
Right.
Dirty Harry is just emblematic of what cops can be like, and I think it's very funny these two interviews, because that was in
Saying very
'79 that he
similar
gave that
things.
interview. So here we are, years and years apart, coming together in the middle to be like, oh, the political messaging. Oh no, you see, that's everyday life.
That's just the way that things are if you look around, actually. Yeah, wow. And we could easily
Yeah, I don't
turn
know,
this into a lengthy discussion about the inherently political nature of, dare I say, almost all art and horror movies especially, and blah, blah, blah. But we don't have time for that. We got a movie to discuss here.
Yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool
Yeah.
that Damien has kind of intentionally been like, hey, listen, that's just life down in Argentina. Kids getting cancer and fascism, that's
This
everyday
is just
life.
shit that's happening.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like he's just showing it. He's not saying that it's bad that you like take away from it, but he's like, this is not reactionary. This is
Right. It's not.
this isn't a movie with a message.
not
This is me
primarily
taking a
the
picture of
political
where I
statement,
live
yeah.
and saying this is what it's like. And if that scares you, oh damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Also,
But yeah, I don't.
I was just looking through my notes from the interviews. Since we were discussing the dog scene so recently, apparently everything with the dog attacking Vicky and dragging her out the door and everything, that was all supposed to be one long shot originally.
Mm-hmm.
God, can you imagine?
Mike Flanagan would never attempt something like this.
No,
He's
because
got
he
that
already did his
9-minute
one long
Wonder
shot and
Midnight
hated it.
Mass and all, but like that didn't have this degree of like action. It turned out that they couldn't do that. But I thought you guys would want to hear that he was trying to be even more ambitious with that horrifying scene.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's wild.
Fantastic, really.
Yeah.
Also,
but
I found the other movie, just real quick, that it was Evil Dead, The Wailing, and The Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those
That
were
makes
his three
sense.
primary influences on When Evil Lurks.
Gotcha.
Love
I
it.
haven't seen The Road, but I can definitely see The Wailing and Evil Dead in this.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think my big sin of this movie,
Mhm.
that I think this time around caused me to lower my score a little bit
Yeah.
was I realized towards the end of the movie, I was like, I feel like he was trying to go for a situation like The Wailing, where in The Wailing at the end of the movie, famously, as an audience member, you're like, holy shit, I don't know which side is the correct side.
Right. I don't even know who
Is
won here.
yeah,
Mhm.
is like the Shinto priest the person main character is supposed to be like listening to, or is it this woman in white? Is she actually evil and
Mhm.
trying to stop him? Like, what the fuck is going on? And as an audience member, you really like don't know. And I think they were trying to build up a similar feeling in this movie of, or like it was supposed to be a similar feeling of like not knowing who to trust. And throughout this movie, there's kind of the feeling of like, I'm not entirely sure like what's going on. I don't really know what's going to trigger like demonic possession. I don't know the full extents of demonic possession, what can happen, what can't happen, and all of that is handled really well. Um and I think like we were supposed to question Mirta like a little bit more as an audience, or like we were expected to almost,
Oh,
but that didn't really happen
I didn't get that impression. Okay.
because like a lot of the criticisms from this movie come in specifically towards the ending of like, why is the main character being so dumb, which is valid.
Well, he
But
is.
I think he is dumb, he's not a good person. I wrote in my notes because like it's hinted at that um main character
Pedro.
Pedro, thank you, um, tried to kill his kids or something
He
at
tried
one
to
point,
kill
and
himself and his whole family all at once. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and like his brother kind of dismisses that because Mirta asks about
Right.
it,
And he
and
just
he
says,
was like,
like,
"Oh, that his
allegedly.
his ex just like
Yeah.
made it up just to get like custody of the kids. Like that's not true." And then later on, towards the end, the demon specifically calls it out as like you were trying to kill yourself and your kids.
Hmm.
And just that and the way that he also treats the kids at the end like the school children, of like not being afraid to
Right.
like hit them really hard with a car door or choke them a bit.
Yeah. He really beats the shit out of that one little girl. And he does it
Yeah.
Mhm.
without a second thought.
Yeah. I think my read of the end is that like our main character is not a good person,
Yep.
and this demon has been like pushing him the entire movie and really causing him to lose it in a lot of ways. I think there may be some like minor possession stuff going on with him at times. And like manipulation
Oh,
specifically,
massively.
getting him to do certain things that are like against his better interests. But yeah, he does some questionable things at the end, and you're like, what are you doing? Yeah, Jeff, you're raising
Yeah,
your fingers as
I
if
wanted
you
to
want to
let
say
you. I wanted to
something.
let you finish just before offering the counterpoint of my read on it.
Okay.
So this is gonna kind of end up covering a lot of things that go across the entire movie, and also some things from interviews with Damien. He says just a couple of quick little things. He says, I don't give you too much from a character because we have to keep moving. I give you as much as you need, but we've got a pace to keep in the movie. So if I give you too much, I'm going to ruin the atmosphere. He talked a good bit about how he doesn't want to tell you too much of anything too explicitly within the movie itself because he feels that that kind of ruins parts of things. Another thing that he said is
Mm-hmm.
just as a thing about Jaime, the brother specifically, he is always hiding something. Literally, almost every interaction he has with anybody for the entire movie, he's always keeping something from them. There's in the scene where he hits Sabrina with his car, her corpse like reanimates itself again and says, "You said you loved me." So I think it's kind of implied that when she tells Pedro on the phone that she cheated on him with a ton of people, I think it's kind of implied that his brother was actually one of them. Very fucked up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that kind of colors the way that I read all of his interactions with absolutely everyone, and the way that I read all of Pedro's interactions with everything, and the way that he makes all of his decisions is he doesn't think a lot. obviously, he makes dumb decisions and such, right? He is guided entirely by his emotions. He makes all of his decisions very emotionally. And this is where the fascism thing ties in, right? Because when he goes and talks to Ruiz, he seems to consider Ruiz to be this guy whose judgment means a lot, and like he's a guy that you want to listen to. But then the moment we start seeing anything from Ruiz, he is also just this dumb hothead making decisions exclusively based on emotions. It seems like everything he does is guided entirely by the fear of like what the government taking his land. He's just prime libertarian Armando Ruiz. And he just as a little sidetrack on the ignoring women thing, half of his scenes are with his wife. He addresses her directly literally one time, and he doesn't even look at her when he does it.
Yeah.
Once again, this is the fascism thing, because fascists never listen to women, blah, blah, blah. But Pedro's thing, because the way that the demon operates, right? Mirta says that it operates off of your fears. Damien, in an interview, described the demon as operating like a hacker. He gets into your head and he gets your personal information, and he's like, I'm in. And then he uses all of that information to manipulate you. He uses it against you. I think you are entirely right in saying that what's going on with Pedro is a little light possession stuff, but it's better than that. The demon doesn't need to possess Pedro because he's too easy. He's so afraid of too many things. Like Mirta says, it attacks your kids because you're afraid of losing your kids. That's the thing that scares you, so that's the fear that it plays on. And the whole way through the movie, I think what we're seeing, almost all the movements of the plot that Pedro produces are entirely because the demon is just giving him a trail of breadcrumbs, and it's just all his fears. It's just making him make more and more emotional decisions, because this is the way that fascism gets you. It points to a thing that you're scared of, and it says that's what the communists are going to do, or that's what the queers are going to do, or whatever, right? This is what the people you're worried about are going to do to the people that you care about. And it convinces you to make all these horrible counterproductive decisions that anybody with half a brain could tell you are stupid decisions, but because you're too scared, because the fascism is playing entirely on you making decisions based in your fear, you're not going to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see Pedro making a lot of stupid decisions and stuff, but I don't think it's indicating that we're supposed to doubt Mirta. I think you're supposed to be watching Pedro make the wrong decision over and over, and you're supposed to be hearing Mirta say the thing that actually makes sense. But because, in that one final scene when he's trying to take apart the stage in the school, because that's where Uriel is buried, and the one kid says there's an axe in the other room, all you got to do is go get it, and Mirta's like, no, don't do that, she's lying. Obviously, they're just trying to get you to leave me alone so that when they have us separated, we are weakened. And Pedro's just like, well, I'll just be real quick though, and they lock him in the room and they kill Mirta and smash the spyglass looking sextant thing, whatever that is. Speaking of things that we don't get enough information about, right? But
it's the demon killing tool.
Yeah, it's really neat. And in that, speaking of Jaime hiding things all the time, right? In the early scene where they find the cleaner's corpse, they find a smashed up one of those things, and he's like, oh, I've seen this before. And Pedro's like, where? And he's like, I don't know. And he just like walks away, changes the subject. Anyways, though, I really think all of that is supposed to just be more emphasizing Pedro's over-emotional decision-making process, more so than it is anything else, like trying to get you to doubt Mirta or anything. I think you're supposed to just be painfully aware of how dumb Pedro's being the whole time, and that's what most of that actually comes down to. But I've just spent way too long saying that here.
Let me interrupt you then. Let me float a new theory.
Somebody else needs to talk.
Because our cleaner Muerta says Mirta.
Yeah, with an I.
says that she was possessed and then he left because he couldn't do anything with her. My theory is that Pedro also can't really be possessed, but the demon's still like able to get up in there.
Right. Yeah.
As a carrier of the disease rather than an
asymptomatic carrier,
sufferer of an asymptomatic carrier, one might say.
That's fun.
To pull us into the disease direction that he's not really intentionally super going into.
Yeah.
But
once again, a picture of the world that you live in, though. It's going to end up in there whether you're trying to put it there or not, because the art is a reflection of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And Mirta does talk...
I was thinking that.
Yeah. She does talk about how, like, the cleaners can't be possessed,
Yeah.
but the demon still will try to manipulate you.
Yeah, there's
and,
things that it
and
can
will try to
do
fuck you.
without properly possessing you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense. I had that thought as well, that he might be like one of those people that can't directly be possessed.
Right, because she
but
says that
Mhm.
Jaime is one of those, and it would make sense if it was like a maybe a family thing potentially.
yeah.
Although then Jair does get possessed, so maybe that falls apart.
Well, yeah. But I think she mentions that autistic people are easier to get possessed
But harder to
at some
actually
point,
take control
but
of
hard to
because of
actually take.
yeah,
Yeah.
the difficulty
Mhm.
that the demon has with navigating their mind.
Yeah. And then his other son doesn't get possessed,
He just gets
just
eaten.
killed.
Yeah. He gets
Yeah.
killed horribly and eaten by his mom.
Yeah.
What a
Like
scene
a
that
bowl
shit
of
is, right?
popcorn.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's wild. And that
Do we
brings me to my next point.
Yeah.
When I first watched this movie and was talking about it in my goals, the way I described it was it's an incredible like collaboration of demonic possession and zombie movie.
Yeah, I
And
can follow that.
just now that you've both seen it, I love, and this leads great into our next kind of segment of March of the Zombies for the
It kind of does.
podcast.
It's a little bit of a transition point there.
But how, like with zombies, okay, if you get bit, you're turning into a zombie. And then you watch like people get bit and the zombie virus spread, and over people are trying to run from the zombies or get away. And the whole movie, it's just kind of that progression of things kind of becoming more and more and more intense. But with this, you don't really know how this spreads. You just see it spread throughout the movie, and seeing kind of like the intelligent manipulative demon like spreading over time, and like you're not sure, like, okay, is this person possessed, is this thing possessed, maybe yes, no, unsure.
Yeah.
And just the uncertainty that goes along with kind of the zombie virus slash possession slash the zombie virus being really intelligent in this movie, and manipulative, is just really satisfying, and I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's really neat.
Yeah, I like especially the way that it is, and this is actually confirmed by the director, it is one single demon the whole time, doing all of the manipulating, all of the possessing. It is all the one single demon. In his words, we say that God is everywhere, so it seems like this guy would probably work kind of the same, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which I think is a very interesting comparison to be making.
Yeah. Speaking of little kids,
Yeah.
you weren't speaking of little
I
kids,
was not.
but
However,
creepy little kids.
yeah,
The kids at the end are very creepy.
they are.
But
Mm-hmm.
specifically Vicky,
From earlier on, yeah.
yeah, the girl that was attacked by the dog and dragged away. So she appears back at home, is completely uninjured. And the mom is like so grateful and freaking out that her daughter's back and is okay and everything. She's the fucking creepiest little kid in this goddamn movie.
Okay, all right. So I actually disagree a little bit. I think the kids in
Really?
the school
So-
are done way better, and it's specifically because they're not going out of their way to be creepy. Like the way that they show up at the school, and it's like it's the middle of the night, it's all dark out, there's no lights turned on or anything, and the kids are all just silently sitting at their desks, like looking down, just kind of avoiding eye contact when they enter the room. They ask them questions directly, and the kids will, like, you know, kind of try to avoid answering, but they're not like being weird, creepy kids, you know? They're acting the way that kids usually do if they're sitting in school at their desks, just trying not to make eye contact, as though they have just, you know, done something normal that they're maybe not supposed to do or something. And there's something about that combined with the fact that their hands are all covered with like the blood and lime dust, and you know they've been hiding corpses in the school. But this is the way that they're
Yeah.
acting. It's just like kind of still pretty normal. For some reason, that
Yeah.
hits extra for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
Vicky's real
that
good, though.
it is creepy. It is creepy. But like how Noah talked about at the beginning of the spoiler segment, how at the end where Jair is like sitting at the table and Pedro's kind of like seeing him choking and is helping him, and Jair just kind of like looks
Yeah.
at Pedro and that look being terrifying. In the same way, the little girl, as the mother is like hugging her and freaking out,
yeah.
she's just incredibly like watchful like the entire time. And you keep getting these shots of her face and she's just like watching things like in the
That's
area.
true.
And it's like really, really creepy and uncomfortable. And I don't like, well, I like it, but
Right,
I don't
it's really
like
well
it.
done. Yeah.
Yeah. Noah, do you have any thoughts on creepy kids?
I in the schoolhouse when they had the lime on their shoes and everything,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's lime all over the floor. I'm like, is this some sort of like mold spreading thing? I was like thrown off by that in a big way, especially when the girl wipes her face with the white foam stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hated that.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe for me, the grossest part of the entire movie.
That's saying something.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just
yeah,
like,
actually. There are multiple scenes in this movie that consistently make me gag.
Yeah.
Like there's the one scene with Uriel at the beginning. He has that like that
The
the
goo
pus
coming
that
out of
just
his mouth.
Oh, the
runs
pus.
out of his
Oh,
mouth.
ugh.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Ugh.
It's disgusting.
It's
I don't like
Mhm.
that.
Makes me gag every
God, oh
single
yeah,
time.
I do try to forget about Uriel. Speaking
Right?
of,
There's so
speaking
fucking
of,
much in this movie. There's so many scenes that have such impact. It's easy to forget about them individually, right? Speaking of,
Yeah.
speaking of Uriel, I know you were all wondering, Noah, surely you know who plays Uriel.
I wasn't wondering that at all.
I
do
was
you?
wondering.
What?
Puppet.
He's entirely a puppet?
By 4 people. He is a puppet manned by 4 people.
I thought that was a
Holy
guy in
shit.
makeup for most of it. Oh my god.
There's a good chance that some of his face might be, but that's why he's got that dead look all the
Yeah.
time, is he's a fucking puppet.
That's crazy.
He's also always doing that thing with his eyes where he's just like looking around in a particular way. It's like the
Yeah.
one way that he
Except
is
when I saw
animated
that.
in a way. Like
Yeah, because when I saw that, I'm like, oh, because he can't move because of the
he's
situation.
too stuffed.
Yeah.
He's too full of demon.
Stop saying that.
I'm gonna keep saying
The demon stuffed him.
Damien wants us to say that the man is stuffed.
Sometimes Damien's wrong, Jeff.
I disagree.
But yeah, oh boy. Can I talk about a favorite scene of mine?
Please.
Yes.
The goat scene.
The goat.
Yeah. It's a good scene.
Uh-huh.
And specifically, I would like to get into the hammer to nail interview because we've been navigating through all of my sources thus far,
Sure.
but I just need to share this info. One of my favorite scenes, easy, right? He hated making that scene. He
said working with the
despised
goats was
this
incredibly
scene.
difficult, right?
150 goats that would not do what he wanted
150
because
goats.
what did he say?
Oh my god.
Truly horrible shooting experience truly horrible experience shooting that sequence because let's see, goats are crazy.
Yeah.
The owner
are.
of the goats said that they can do some things if we baited them with food, but they are untrainable because they are all crazy.
Yeah. That everyone I've ever
Um,
known who has kept goats says something pretty much along those lines. Goats are going to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Always.
So, little thing, by the way, the goat in the movie that they liked almost died the day before shooting. The owner was like, "Oh yeah, we were gonna barbecue that goat,"
Oh my god.
and they're like, "No, don't do that." And now a year later, the goat is still alive and has baby goats because the owner of the goat was like, "Well, you're famous now, you get to live."
Of course, right. Wow.
But yeah,
So not only no animals harmed in the making of this movie, but also this movie saved an animal's life.
so true.
Let's go.
They only had 10 hours to film the scene at the farm with the goats,
Christ.
and it was miserable because it was outside lighting and stuff like that.
yeah.
But all this to say, when I saw that scene, I thought they shot and killed a goat.
Yo, seriously.
There was a small part of me that was like, did they actually kill a goat? Because,
Mhm.
like, unlike with the dog death later, where you can tell it's CG.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like the CG spot appears a little in front of the smoke, and it's like, oh, this is unfortunate, but this does not ruin the movie for me. The goat be wiggling and twitching. It looks like you just blew a goat's head off,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, yo, what the fuck?
Yeah,
So
it
I'm
looks
really
good.
glad to know that the goat did in fact survive.
Yeah.
But
There
the
we go,
goat
nice.
walking up and putting its head against the barrel of the gun
Yeah.
because it
Oh my
can't sit
God.
there and say, "Kill me, Pedro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kill me." You know, like, so the goat just walks up and is just like, meh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and scares the man enough that Ruiz shoots him.
Because
real
Ruiz is
good.
very,
And
very
then-
easily manipulated by fear.
Mhm.
Yeah. The wife attacking him immediately
Uh-huh.
is so good.
Mhm. So there was
It's an incredible scene.
a part of me until she offed herself, and I'm like, oh, duh, the cover of the movie.
Right.
I should have seen this coming. Up until she did that, there was a part of me that was like, she's trying to contain the infection.
Right.
He blew the goat away. Infection transfers to him. She's putting him down the old-fashioned
Right.
way. Maybe that's what's happening. No.
It's all just part of it.
All just part of it. Because the demon said, okay, thanks for dumping me. I'm coming for you next. It's a really good movie. I really, really love this movie.
There's a lot to like about it. It's got a lot of depth to dig into. And also, if you just watch it on the surface level, it's very effective. One other thing you say.
Yeah. One other thing that I noticed specifically because this was my second watch through. So, Jair is said to have a drawing in the movie, and when they finally get to Mirta's house, Jair is kind of not wanting to get out of the car and is like resting in the car, and so Pedro goes and like sleeps in the car with him. And at one point, he like takes the little drawing that Jair has in his hand, and it's like a little picture of like a family in the sun, and it's like really sweet, and you're like, aw. And that's what I thought on my first watch of the movie. But the second watch of the movie, I see that it's like 4 people and then like a orange person drawn above them kind of walking into the sun. I'm like, motherfucker, that's the ending of the movie where it's the demon walking in the sun with all the little kids.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, holy shit, what?
Oh, I love that. I can't believe I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I was like, oh
that's
God.
good.
Fantastic.
And similarly at the school, there's similar imagery where, you know, like the little paper cutouts where it's like the people holding hands and it's like a little like thing you can hang up. They had that where it's like a few people holding hands and then above it is like a singular person. And I'm like, more imagery of like what happens at the end of the movie. Yeah. It's really cool.
God, I love this movie. I am so excited for whatever Damien ends up putting out next.
Yeah.
Like I think this is a guy to watch for sure.
Yeah. I will be watching what he puts out. I want to watch Terrified as well.
It's not on the same level.
Yeah.
But I do think that the concept is very much there. It's got a little bit more of, you know how like all the CG in this movie is like a little obvious, it's a little shot looking, and that's mostly what takes the like half point off of it in my estimation, is largely just like here and there the effects aren't perfect, but like when it leans on the practical effects, they look incredible. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Terrified leans a little bit harder on that really obvious CG. I think the concept is there enough that I don't mind it. It also, though, has a few moments of those practical effects that just are incredible. And that's another one of the things that I just like about this guy's style, is he knows what to lean harder on. And he knows, he also knows the power of like maybe sometimes not showing you very much, not telling you very much. There's moments where he doesn't show you much of anything happening, but he just shows you a thing sitting there looking creepy. And that's cool. I'm
hopeful with the success of When Evil Lurks that whatever next movie he makes, they throw some more money.
Somebody throw money at this man, please.
Yeah. I'd love to see what he can do with a larger budget.
Absolutely. I love seeing what he does with a smaller budget.
Yeah,
you know, if he does this good with less, like what is the budget on this movie actually? Do we?
It's a good question.
We don't know. Okay, looks like Wikipedia does not know.
I'll take a peek.
Budget. The whole production budget was $10 million.
Oh,
that's great. That's really great.
Yeah, because that's not huge for a movie of this kind of quality.
So we're running close to time-ish.
We are. We're a little bit short on time today.
Yeah. So Noah, do you want to hop into our Nina's Notes segment?
Oh yeah, I guess that would be me, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Nina reads your notes.
Yeah, can you sing the Nina's Notes song for us, please?
Yeah, to the tune of the old baby bottle pop commercial jingle. Reading Nina's notes, reading
Reading
Nina's
Nina's
notes.
Well, that's
notes.
something
Yeah,
I
see,
haven't
we all
thought
know.
about in a real long time.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
great.
I
Thank
don't
you
know
for the
where
walk down memory
it
lane.
literally it came to me during the recording of this episode.
All right.
I love
Earlier, because I was prepared to do the tune into someone else reading it. Anyway, Spanish horror film. I haven't seen a Hispanic horror film since Pan's Labyrinth, I think. That one
Oh,
was a
wow.
completely different flavor of horror and completely different flavor of Spanish.
Indeed it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Del Toro is Mexican, right? And this is Argentina.
I think so. Yeah.
Look at this man's jaunty little hat. We love a beret.
Jaime does wear that beret for the whole fucking movie.
It's so goofy. He looks like a caricature.
Yeah,
and I love
in the
him.
scene where Ruiz gets introduced and he's got like his hat on, I was just like, oh, okay, the men in this movie just get like distinctive hats except for Pedro. All right. And then nobody has a hat for the whole rest of the movie. And I was like, oh, I was looking
Right.
forward to more hats, but all right.
All right, subtitles. Shit. Me. No, see, I understood that part.
It's also worth noting the
is this
translation is actually kind of terrible. That's a very
Oh,
unfortunate
yeah, that's the thing that I don't think we talked about.
we haven't
is
yet.
the translation in this movie is absolutely
the
abysmally
subtitles on
god-awful.
Shudder at least. It's also streaming on AMC Plus, I think. But I don't know what it's like over there. But the subtitles on Shudder are an absolutely terrible translation, actually.
It really is a shame. I love that Shudder is putting out all these movies for us. Really, really appreciate it. Desperately wish that they would get a better subtitle team
Yeah.
and a better localization team.
Yeah.
Because even if we keep the Rotten as the title instead of the Stuffed, because we're okay with making just Jeff and the director angry.
I would just love for it to be something a little bit closer to the actual intent,
There's a lot of other translations.
Yes. There's
that,
a lot of other words that you
it's
could land on that would
bungled sentences.
Yeah.
Like sentences that do not connect.
Yeah, there's a number of lines. I almost wrote one down actually at one point because it was so bad.
On that note, is this Russian? It is absolutely not. What the fuck
It's
is
like
that,
written
actually?
vertical. What is it? It's just Exorcist code, I assume, is the intent there.
Yeah, I looked at it and I'm like, oh, is this like Mandarin or Korean?
Yeah.
And then they cut away and I never got to see it again.
It's not any kind of characters that I recognize because they look like something halfway between typical European and like Cyrillic lettering. But then it's also written vertically in like columns as though like Japanese or something like that. And this is for listeners' benefit, anyone who hasn't watched the movie, because I know some of our listeners don't. There's when they find the cleaner's corpse at the beginning of the movie, he's got a case with a smashed demon killing sextant thing and also a file with a bunch of this mysterious writing in it and a photocopy of Maria Elena's ID, which is what leads them to her house.
Yeah.
Ruiz says some really weird things to her when he threatens her in the one scene as well. When he sees Uriel, he points his gun at her and her other son, and he says, I should have burned your house when you came here with your filth. And then he says, you contaminate everything. What's the deal with that? Why does he hate them already?
When I was watching a Dead Meat podcast about it,
they
posited the theory that they did. They put the theory forward that maybe they are indigenous.
Right. Okay.
And that would be the angle working right there.
All right.
But like we do know at the very least, we got classism because Ruiz is a landowner and these are people he is allowing to live on his land. So at the very, very least, they're the brokes and he's not down with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I follow that theory though. Cool.
I don't know what this note is connected to, but I just see ew, uh-oh.
I bet that's Uriel, probably.
Probably.
Maybe it's the pus. Who knows?
Maybe carrying Uriel out on the bed sheet and like dropping him and everything.
The way it's just like dripping out the bottom before it rips.
Yeah, real nasty.
So disgusting. Great job, Damien.
Grandma is the most frustrating character. Like, lady, come on.
We talk about how the men in this movie don't listen to anything. She also, it's very clear where her sons get it from.
Yes, they come by this naturally.
Yeah, she doesn't listen to anything anyone says. She doesn't take anything seriously at all. And it's partially their fault for not telling her the whole story at first, but
see. Anyway, Rip Santiago or Rip Santino.
Yeah, poor Santino. Oh man,
Yeah.
gets turned into a snack pack.
Interesting theory about autistic people there. LOL.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's the way
what
to
else
put
is
it.
there to say?
So we got our last two notes. It's a twofer. Jamie recognized all the cleaner shit because he fucked the teacher when he was younger. And then
Yeah.
LMAO, sorry, Jaime, by the way. LMAO, Jaime kind of a slut. He slept with Sabrina too. Go off, King.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, and that's pretty much what Pedro says to him at the one point as well, right? He's like, yeah, every summer you always cried because you missed the teachers at school. And
Yeah.
And there we go. That's Nina's notes.
Okay, hold on. So Noah also linked us his notes. So I wanna look through Noah's notes as well. See if there's any gold there. So Noah, can you sing us the song for Noah's notes?
So yeah, this is to the tune of hit commercial Baby Bottle Pop. No.
Read a Noah's notes. Read a Noah's notes.
Ooh.
Okay.
Noah's first note is going off what Jeff and Emma have mentioned. I'm guessing I shouldn't get attached to these dogs. Those are actually the dogs that are okay.
Yeah, we never see those dogs
they just
again.
never come back. They run away and they disappear.
Yeah. That hand and body look fantastic. Holy shit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Uriel,
love this
very
little
attractive
this
man.
little two-note pairing here. The one that says, I'm so afraid of this shot of the dog with the girl circling him, followed by a note that just says, oh my God.
Yeah. That neck jerk was brutal to see. No, Vicky can't be back. Oh my god. That car wreck was crazy too. This movie's all gas. The makeup effects on here are insane.
That shambling
Yeah.
walk doesn't bode well. Oh yeah. That's when Jaime's coming up behind Sabrina on the road. Oh wow, you weren't kidding when you said you didn't have a lot of notes here.
No, I was. Most of my notes are early, were with the Ebert review, the excerpts from 4 different publications, 3 different publications, whatever. And
Yeah.
beard equals Pedro.
Pedro.
Mustache equals Jimmy, because Jimmy was the name put in the subtitles. I'm like, Jimmy it is.
Pedro
Let's go.
does call him Jimmy. At
Yeah,
several points.
it's like his nickname. But see, I'm waiting to learn that this girl is actually telling the truth and that the rotten isn't actually in here at all.
Oh, but he is.
Yeah.
And I love the way that
But
it's
he
set
is.
up. Like
Yeah,
they're
Wet Man, the
walking
Pus
around
Lord.
the outside of the school and Pedro like steps in the empty bags from the lime. And then they see it all over the kids' hands and shoes and stuff. And it's like, all right, so you know something's going on. Just like how like the whole scene with the dog, you're watching the dog like just look around and stuff. And you're like, okay, when's it going to happen? The movie does a really good job of setting things up and making sure you feel them coming. I love the
Yeah.
inevitability of so many movements of this movie.
Yeah. I think in the schoolhouse, there's the one girl that I think is trying to be shown as being like good and against the other kids, because when they're in the schoolhouse, she has her eyes closed and Mirta is asking her questions and she's like, I can't answer sort of things. And then when she suddenly does almost answer a question, I think the girl behind her like cuts her off and like
Yeah.
With that
tells
big
her to shh, and then like rubs the lime on her
Yeah.
face. And I think like she's the one that kind of runs out to Pedro
Yeah.
and tells him like, hey, like the body's not where they're telling you it is. It's a trap. The body's actually at my house. Like,
And then Pedro beats
And-
the shit out of her, and she ends up in the room begging them to stop taking the stage apart and all.
yeah. I think they could have played with her a little bit better of like really getting us as the audience to like maybe be like, is this girl like actually not with the demon? Is she cool? Is she good?
Right. Yeah,
but-
make you wonder a little bit. Maybe Pedro's right to listen or something.
Yeah. There he is, Wet Man the Puss Lord.
The Pus
It's
Lord.
not the Puss Lord, it's the Puss Lord.
Oh, Puss
Emma,
Lord.
please. That man
It's
is
You
not
get mad
in
at
the
me
same
saying that,
way.
you get mad at me calling him
It's
stuffed,
spelled
and
the
then you
same
call him the
way.
Puss Lord, and suddenly that's okay.
Uriel's getting it.
Clearly, Jaime is the Puss Lord, if anybody, but...
Thank you.
Pedro is a man who hasn't listened to instruction a single day of his life.
Not once. This is a man who opens the box, throws out the instructions, and then spends 4 hours sitting on the floor confused, rather than actually read them.
Walking back to the trash can, checking the instructions, leaving them there, coming back again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how he can be here with the demon hunter while she tells him what to do as the only authority in the area, and then be like, nah, I think the possessed kid is correct. I'll trust her.
I'm going to listen to this child who has already lied to me multiple times instead. Thank you.
Yeah.
The scene where the kids kill Mirta is really something as well, isn't it? They're dragging her away, and the one
just
kid is just
her
following
out and then,
with the hammer
hitting her
and
in the
hitting her
head
again and again. Oh, God.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the one stabbing scene in The Blackcoat's Daughter, actually, where it's like the amount of time in between each hit makes the individual hits feel a lot more impactful. Love it.
Good notes. Good notes.
Anybody got final thoughts here?
Good
Anything
movie.
we've managed not to say so far, or
good
yeah,
movie.
very much.
I like the brother dynamic.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think it's great. Can't stress enough that the makeup effects are great. Like when we first see the hand and the legs at the very beginning of the movie.
They look really good.
Well, what we think is a hand, and it's actually like just a few fingers sitting there.
Yeah, then the legs have the
really
intestines
good stuff.
spilling out the top and everying. Ugh, it's just wet enough. It's
Puppet
disgusting.
Uriel, once again, really
Uriel
good.
is really impressive. The soundtrack of this movie is real solid. I think it shines its brightest in the quieter moments, where it's a lot less like synthesizery stuff, a lot less lower frequency rumble, and it's a lot of like bowed and plucked stringed instruments. I don't know if it's like violins and cellos or just things that make me think that it's violins and cellos, but there's also definitely some guitar in there, and it lends the quieter moments a texture that I really enjoy. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Just a great movie.
So I'm seeing the trailer for this movie open in IMDb right now. Cannot stress enough, don't watch the trailer.
Oh no.
It gives away the goat scene almost in its entirely. It does the whole thing.
Oh God, no, you can't ruin
Yeah,
it.
Well,
no,
to be fair,
it is the cover. It is the cover of the movie.
It is the cover, but you don't know it's the cover till it happens. You know?
To be fair, whoever's listening to this episode long enough to hear that warning,
also,
you've already had everything kind of spoiled for you.
Oh no!
Okay,
all
that's
the way
true.
through into the podcast.
Okay.
Don't watch the trailer; it's got spoilers.
This is why there's a few sacrificial people in the world who watch trailers for me. Online people who say this movie looks good so that I never have to see them, so I can have a true unbroken experience.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
makes
watching
sense.
trailers
That's good.
either, personally.
I love trailers.
Okay, it's why they're there.
I watch trailers
They
all
are
the time.
there to be
Yeah.
watched. I tend to feel like a lot of trailers make most movies look the same. Lots of times, far too often, they show too much, that kind of thing. So I personally just kind of avoid them usually.
This trailer showed them pulling the hair out of his mouth.
No!
Oh my
You
god.
can't show that.
It was like blue-black colored. So oh, I totally forgot. End of the movie. When the demon is born, all right? When he births the demon and the demon leaves 3 lines on his forehead that he can't wash off. I like that a lot. It's like, hey, thanks, buddy. Now everyone will know that you helped birth a demon.
Yeah, it's great.
I love the bleakness of the end as well. The demon child just walks off. That's it. Like, what's he gonna do? Who knows? Whatever he wants, probably.
Yeah.
He's gonna go eat some nature noises, apparently.
Delicious.
That's the first thing that goes. Okay, well, what are we watching next time?
Why next time?
Next time we are...
A Sean, if you will.
What?
No, not the listener who's just like, hey, what the fuck? Of the dead, in fact.
That's right. We're watching Shaun of the
excited.
Dead to kick off our March of the Zombies month. And I'm real excited. I haven't watched Shaun of the Dead in a while, and it's a great time.
It is a fun movie.
Very excited.
Yeah. But
until then, though.
Thank you all so much for hanging out and listening with us. I'm Emma. You can find me at Emma Panada on Twitch and Twitter. I'm also writing a TTRPG called All the Witches. You can find information about that at allthewitches_ on Twitter. I'm also I started GMing a game, which is really cool, of Fabula Ultima, which is a TTRPG system, and I'm GMing it on Stella Luna's Twitch channel on every other Thursday. We have our first 2 episodes done, and they're up on YouTube if you want to watch them. It's a fun time.
Cool. You can find me as Bubba the Bad, BUBBADABAD. I am on Blue Sky and Letterboxd and whatever else I linked down below. Journey with me through my year of movies, where we see how long is it before I break and lose it.
Pretty far, I hope.
I believe in you.
Yeah, I've got so much
I hope at
faith
least
in
through
you.
March.
You're making it through the entire year.
You're gonna do it. We believe in you. I
don't know about that, but I'm gonna try.
I have been Jeff. You can find me on Tumblr at What Is It You Pray For, and you can also follow the podcast at Casual Horror Pod.
All right. And also you can find Nina, even though they weren't here today. You can find them at Nina Wolverina most everywhere except on Tumblr. There's a 3 where the E should be. And you should check out Nina's books if you haven't already. They're great.
Very good books.
But
big fan.
Yeah. Thank you again so much. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
Possessed ghost noises.